see if this works.
Yeah. Everybody thought of the Boston show. Okay, else.
The sun's gonna get the light
Are you situated? Alright, let's see, I gotta... I'm gonna put my foot somewhere. This will be fine. You just gotta lean over with me here. Okay. Get up for a second.
don't focus it on me. Alright, well I guess start with interviewing, introducing yourself. We are
Dave, singer and guitar player over down by Rock.
turn the radio down.
Actually, if you guys want, you can do this in the other room. It's not, it doesn't bother me.
Are you gonna be the light man, Derek?
No, we can do it.
No, you can just keep it on there and point it towards us. It's not gonna hurt our eyes. We did it. We got on the thing on MTV in Italy, and the lights are so bright that they put on you. You really don't realize it until you've done something like that. Well, you probably realize it, but I didn't until I did that. Wow, it's crazy.
All right, well let's start, I guess, with the introduction then.
Okay.
I'm Sam Williams. I play guitar in Down by Law.
My name's Dave Smalley, and I sing and play guitar for Down by Law.
And how long have you been in the band?
I've been in the band since I started it, about 1990, about 3 years ago.
I've been in the band about, 2.5 weeks?
No, like a month.
A month, really?
Has it been? It's been a month.
No way.
We've been on tour for 2 weeks.
Alright, we gotta take a time out.
So, a month, I guess, yeah.
He's the rookie.
Brand new.
And how's the tour been going so far?
It's been going really well. Yeah, it's been good.
I've had a lot of fun.
And how long is it expected to last?
It's about 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
Yeah.
To the States?
Yeah, and we did Canada too. We did 3 shows in Canada. Those were really good.
Yeah, Canada's really cool.
You got a good response there?
Great response, yeah. Canada's like kind of one of our home away from home type places, you know. You have certain places that you play where you have a lot of friends and fans, and just you have a really warm feeling, and that's one of them for us. All over Canada, actually, from Vancouver all the way over to Toronto and Montreal. Yeah.
What did you think of Vancouver?
Well, we didn't play there this tour. We played there twice before, and the first time it was really great. There's a million people. They all went nuts. The second time, I think it was around a holiday, and there was like 200 people, and they were kind of sleepy. So I didn't have as much fun the second time, but I'm willing to go back there and try it again. Oh no, I'm thinking of Victoria. Vancouver was about the same. Great. Vancouver was great, yeah. Victoria was the one that was flip-flopped. There's the crazy man with the power drill.
Do you have any rules about masturbation while on tour? I know like some friends in East Coast bands, they're not allowed to touch themselves until they get back home and things like that. So, does that go the same out west?
He's married.
I'm married, and I don't try not to think about what the other guys are doing. It's not really my.
So you don't declare, things off limits while in the bus.
No. Although our roadie Scott did say he'd prefer if no one touched themselves when we were at his house, in his mother's house, which I thought was a fair enough rule.
Are nose rings a turn on?
I don't really. You mean for like if a chick has a nose ring? Is that
a chick or a guy, depending on
right. Well, I just have to say, it really doesn't matter to me. If I think a girl really looks good, I don't think a nose ring
You
would
can
like
see-
ruin it.
You see through the piercing.
Right, I see through the nose ring.
I've never actually. The only people I know closely that are friends that have nose rings are all guys. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. None of my friends that are girls.
Does that excite you? Is that
No, actually today was kind of disgusting because again, Scott, our roadie, was telling us how he changed his nose ring and it was infected, and he was describing it to us in really graphic detail, and that part, you know, that wasn't good.
Has anyone in the band ever been abducted? UFO type of experience?
Not me. I can't speak for the other two guys.
Well, he's from Florida, so you kind of have to think
Yeah.
the whole state, really.
That is true. They're all living on another planet. Though.
Yeah.
too.
No abductions to report as yet. Although sometimes I wonder about our bass player. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Any out of body experiences? Any brushes with death? You care to elaborate on? Or?
Lots of brushes with death.
Yeah, a few of those.
Yeah. What, your car wreck?
Yeah, car wreck. I was almost moving.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But I made it through. I'm cool.
It's tough. I don't know, it sounds kind of strange, but sometimes I have, when I'm writing songs, people can talk to me and like, you know, even my wife, you know, who's like my best friend and other half, you know,
Right.
she can say something to me and it just doesn't connect, you know, so
Right.
it's kind of an out-of-world experience for me, you know, when I'm writing either lyrics or songs a lot of times.
What do you find inspiring that you write about? Or what inspires you?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of goodness in the world that you can write about, and there's also a lot of bad things in the world that you can write about. And for me, I try and just draw on personal feelings that I have. You know, we have a new song that these guys, I haven't showed them yet, but it's probably going to be called The Everyday Man. And it was about a guy who I saw at a restaurant, and he was just working really, really hard and getting people their food, and no one was even saying thank you or smiling. They were just giving them their $3 or whatever and taking their sandwich and leaving. And I kind of thought, you know, here's this guy working his butt off, you know, and no one ever stops and says thanks. And no one ever stops and smiles to this guy. And he, you know, it's hot in the restaurant. You know, he stays there all day. You know, he opens it probably at 7 in the morning. Probably goes home after, you know, 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And I just kind of wrote a song saying, you know, there's a whole big world out there, and it's up to you to try and, I mean, anything, even like a little smile to somebody like that who's working really hard, kind of the unsung heroes of life, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my songs. That was just something that triggered something in me. And I just write about all kinds of different feelings like that. A lot of my songs that I've written for Down by Law so far have been about redemption and the theory of like commitment to an ideal. And the theory is that, you know, all of us can make a little bit of a difference.
Right.
And, you know, you guys are trying to make a difference with your video fanzine, and that's really good. And, you know, there's different ways. You know, you can be a teacher, you can be, you know, whatever, and you can just have a normal job and give money to good charity causes or whatever, but there's always something you can do, and sometimes it's easy to lose your faith.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of another thing I write about is keeping your faith, you know, in trying to make things better.
Do those ideas of redemption stem off from like straight edge feelings?
A lot of them do, yeah, for me. I mean, I'm straight edge, Sam is, and so is Hunter, 3 of the 4 guys in our band. But, I mean, we don't call ourselves a straight edge band,
Right.
you know. I mean, I think we all hold true to the ideals of it. But I think when you get too conscious of labeling people,
Right.
you can exclude a lot of other people too.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and that's not good. You know, I know a lot of really loyal, good Down by Law fans who may or may not drink. I don't even know, you know, and I don't need to know because I know they're good people.
Right.
You know, I know that they're not alcoholics. I know they don't do drugs. I know they don't like hurt other people. So.
Do you believe in that straight edge thing, like moderation, instead of this big religious thing? Don't do this, don't do that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to try and force our beliefs on anybody, but I don't do any of that stuff, you know? I mean, that's... But for me, I couldn't. Like, I'm so used to living that way now.
Right.
It's like part of my... You know what I mean? It's part of my way of life that I would never, you know, drink beer, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I decided it's not that it's bad or good. It's just I don't consider that as an option for me. You know?
Yeah, I don't do that either, but I found that, you know, like I used to, you know, really condone people that, you know, indulge in or whatever and partake in this and that. I used to be like, you know, and not that I had a problem with it, but it sort of bothered me. But now I realize that it's, you know, people are going to be what they are. And,
Yeah.
I mean, they can be great and. Yeah, I don't know.
He's gonna throw you.
I know, but it's
No, I just
like
like what you're saying. The thing is,
you know,
I think a lot of the guys and girls who are the most emphatic about anything, even like, I mean, you can take it to an extreme and look at like the Manson family,
Right.
or like people who just stopped smoking is a really good example. People who just stopped smoking are the ones that are the most anti-smoking.
Yeah.
My mother, when she stopped smoking, it was like, you know, she couldn't even stand to be in a room if people were smoking. You know?
Right.
She'd tell people, you know, don't smoke around me and stuff. And then now she's more mellow and she can handle it because it's been a while, you know. And I think when you first get into something, that's when you are the most extreme about it.
Yeah, and it always seems the people that are most extreme are easiest and the quickest to break, you know, to sort of lose that.
Yeah, I mean, look at a lot of those bands. Like, I don't know, I shouldn't say their names because I don't know any of these people, but I've heard that the guys in Bold and a lot of the other guys,
Acid freeze.
yeah, have totally
Yeah.
changed. And those guys were the most, like, you know.
Yeah,
And
they're
I
the
mean,
most verbal about it, and they.
yeah, but you look at maybe, you know, hopefully I'm somewhat of a model for that, and Ian certainly, and Henry,
Right.
and you know, a lot of other people, and you know, we're the ones who've just sort of kept that, you know.
Yeah.
And Al from SSD Control, you know, and
Right.
because for us it was important to talk about it, but it's also important to live it,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and that's kind of, you set your life as an example by doing, not by talking.
Yeah. Do you feel well, how do you feel about bands like These Are Today and things that have sort of, you know, like all the bandwagon straight edge stuff that's happened
Well, I mean,
in the last few years?
I have no problem with it. What do you? I don't know. What do you think? Youth of Today and all those New York bands.
I was never really into them, not bands like that. I don't really. I usually didn't really like what they stood for, you know,
Right.
like the straight edge fascism type thing.
Yeah.
And some of their songs were kind of catchy, but you know, I really wasn't. I was never into many of those bands, so I don't really know. I haven't listened to them that much.
But at the same time, I mean, I think that I had a problem with some of those bands and some of those people, and like you said, straight edge fascism on any side, whether it's from straight edge or, you know, right wing people or left wing people who are really anarchists and such,
Right.
like the maximum rock and roll people. Fuck you, you know. I hate all of those people. I wish they would just be wiped off the face of the earth, because I think that what they do is make this world an ugly, hateful place.
Right.
And I think that by the same token, though, a lot of those young straight edge bands, I mean, they're influenced by DYS and SSD and Dag Nasty and Minor Threat, you know, and
Right.
so if they're influenced by something and they get into a good ideal and make their band and try and live their life a certain way, I'm all for it.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'd rather there were 100 straight edge bands than 100 bands saying, go, you know, get fucked up and hurt each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but at the same time, I feel like I'm kind of glad that it's not that I feel pretty unique, you know, like amongst my peers and things like that. And I'm kind of glad that everybody isn't coming at a lot of things with the same ideas. You know, like
Yeah.
just then there's a real discourse, a real variety of
Definitely,
dialogue.
definitely. Well, that's one of the things too, is that people, you know, who are either anti or pro straight edge, sometimes they forget that it was never supposed to be like everyone should be straight edge. For us, when we were first starting to do all this stuff, it was like we saw all of our friends around us, a lot of friends that I had became potheads. And I was either going to become a pothead or I was just going to say, fuck that, I'm not into it, and never
Right.
do it. And I never did, I never smoked pot. And for that time, that was so weird, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like the popular punk rocker in my high school, but at the same time, you know, I wouldn't go to any of the parties because I didn't want to, you know.
Right.
And I mean, it was just supposed to be a choice for people to make as it fit them, you know? And if somebody wants to drink a beer, that doesn't make them any more or less moral or any more or less good. You know, it's what you do with your life that matters, you know?
How you affect the people around you.
Yeah, how you affect the people around you, for sure.
Yeah, I guess that leads to another question. Like, you seem very upbeat on stage, and is that, like, you seem very approachable and friendly. Is that something that I mean, like, what sort of philosophy and like, do you have that, this isn't coming out right, but...
You mean like about how...
I mean, how you, like, how you're approaching the audience and just, like, when you wake up, like, you know, in general, like, do you think, like, day by day, do you maintain, like, a set of goals you want to accomplish? Do you, or is it just in a longer time frame? Do you think about, like...
I don't know, I guess for us, well, for me, you know, for the band as a whole, like, the audience is our family. Like, you know, you guys, like, if you don't come to see us next year and say hi, you know, it wouldn't be like we'd be mad, we'd be hurt, you know? Right. And we have friends that have become like our family all over the country, and it's kind of like a cult thing, I guess, a little bit, you know? Yeah. And it's real nice, you know? So, I mean, I write back to every single letter we get, and we get a lot. You know, I spend about an hour and a half a day, 2 hours writing letters. I mean, I just don't think the rock star thing for me, I know some bands have signed to major labels and are now getting real inaccessible. Yeah. And that's something that really terrifies me about... you need to get that in the picture, I think.
That's dirt.
Don't show my mom that. She thinks I'm a real tough dude.
I don't know, and as far as life in general, I guess, you know, I think all of us are probably optimists, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
for sure. There's way too many excuses to be a pessimist and be negative and be, you know, like a lot of the, I mean, I always found like a lot of the people who were like into goth, you know, like Bauhaus and stuff like that, they were so fucking depressed and so down. And I mean, I agree, there's so much stuff in this world that is important to change, and
I'm black on the outside.
But it seems I'm black on the inside.
Yeah, because I'm black on the inside.
Magnifying closer to that depression. Right. I got a question. You know, growing up, I've watched like cartoons like Force 5 and Guy King. What kind of cartoons did you grow up watching?
Well, this is your man.
He's younger than I am.
Yeah, but still, all I watch.
Guy King, Granddad.
All I watch is Japanese animation. I have so much of that stuff at
Akira
home.
and all that.
Yeah, Akira and Zillion and
Scooby Doo.
Yeah, I like a lot of like vintage American animation also. So you know, that's all I watch is cartoons constantly at my house.
I really like Looney Tunes, all the Looney. I mean,
that stuff's good.
Huge Bugs Bunny
Big Chuck Jones fan.
Yeah, big Chuck Jones, Fritz Freleng, and also I don't know if you guys ever saw Kimba. You ever see Kimba, the White Lion? See, that's because I'm like 95 years old and you guys are 5 and stuff. But Kimba the White Lion was awesome. It's like, and that was old even when I was like an 8-year-old. You know, that was it's an old Japanese animation.
Was it really?
Yeah. It's like a story of a little courageous white lion, like a small white lion. He's like king of the forest.
Alright, so if you watched all those like Japanese animation ones, all of them are kind of violent. Do you ever think like going to school that morning and like doing a bolt throw thing at some little kid?
Well, when I was going to high school, maybe. When I was mad, no, not really. But they kind of mellow those things down when they translate them over to English. You know, like I don't know if you ever saw Battle of the Planets.
Yeah.
That was like really mellow. You know, it was really killer, but it was mellow. And like over there, you know how like they all had different weapons, and like the girl had like feathers or something. Well, like over there, she'd like throw feathers, and they just like go straight through people and stuff. They supposedly took out like at least a minute and a half of violence every time they brought it over here.
You think
So
really?
like, those cartoons
So
were
then-
violent. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about like cartoons now like corrupting young minds. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I don't
think
really.
It's complete crap.
Yeah, I don't really.
It's absolutely complete crap.
The cartoons that have been coming out in the last 6 years are just horrible because of that. They just really suck. They don't have any character, and not to mention the animation.
What do you think about Walt Disney? Do you think that's taken over the world, like, in a way? I mean, there's something to be said about the sort of fantasies, like the Cinderella complex fantasy type thing, where
There's supposed to be a lot of racism
women are
between Walt Disney
supposed to,
and
wait for Prince Charming and these kind of ideas.
Yeah, but I mean,
In a way, it's
to
kind
me,
of
like, there's some ideals. I mean, the way the world is going with this so-called political correctness.
Right.
I mean, everything in the world will not be okay to do.
Yeah.
Nothing. I
Yeah.
mean,
You can't
you
do
know,
anything, right?
because Coca-Cola is the largest company, it wouldn't be okay to drink that. You should drink like RC because they're smaller and struggling. That's bullshit. Coke tastes better. I'm gonna buy a Coke. You know.
Right.
And I mean, I think the politically correct thing. I mean, for me, a fairy tale is. I mean, mankind has survived since the cavemans to now. And
Yeah.
you know, Cinderella didn't manage to disrupt anything too badly.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and it's actually been a nice story for a lot of little children to read. And what's the matter with Cinderella? I mean, yes, you can take the anarchist, like feminist standpoint and say what it makes women look inferior and all that stuff. But that's not the point of Cinderella. The point of Cinderella is it's a love story. And it's, you know, a story about a girl who's unhappy finally becoming happy. And, you know, to me, that's the point of Cinderella.
Right.
And I think, like, Aladdin, you know, I thought that was great.
I
you
saw
know?
it the other day.
Did you like
It's a
it?
bad movie.
Yeah, it was excellent.
I hear all this stuff like, oh yeah, they view the Arabs or whatever like in a negative way. I don't really look at that, you know.
No.
That was a really cool movie.
Yeah, it was great. And, you know, I think people are just getting too caught up on finding anything, you know.
To bitch
Shooting
about.
holes in any sort of.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, this is something that's kind of close to me because I'm from Washington and our football team is the Washington Redskins. But, like, the Atlanta Braves, like, people in Atlanta, there's a big movement to change the name of the Atlanta Braves. And to me, I mean, I'm not a Native American, so I shouldn't really be commenting on it, I suppose. But it's like the Brave was a noble warrior. You know, it's a good image to have. It's not like a negative, bad stereotype, I don't
Right.
think. I mean, again, I'm not speaking from...
Right.
You know, but there's a team called the Vikings, and my origins are Scotch and Irish and English, you know, so I have Viking blood in me, and I don't get mad that they show a guy with a horn on his head
Right.
and a handlebar mustache.
That's going
you know?
on up here up at UMass. There's a statue of a Minuteman, and people are getting all pissed off. It's sexist, racist, and it promotes violence because he's a male, he's white, and he's holding a gun. People are flipping on about that.
Yeah, that's
complete
crazy.
dumbness.
I mean, the Minutemen made America, you know, the fact is that, you know, Paul Revere and the guys, all these guys, I mean, if you look at the story of America, there is like a true, you know, it's kind of like a fairy story. I'm very proud to be an American. I think we have some really great things. We have a lot of things to be ashamed of, too.
Sure.
Like the Trail of Tears with Andrew Jackson and, you know, obviously the slavery and, you know, women not being allowed to vote until the 1920s and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been changed and that have been addressed now. You
Right.
know? But by the same token, if you look at what this country was when it started, it was a small little bunch of farmers fighting religious and economic persecution.
Right.
And they fought the most important country in the world and won.
Yeah.
And, you know, and made the Declaration of Independence, which, you know, is like a remarkable document. So, I mean, it's way too easy to beat up on America these days and on some of the things that, and I'm by no means a right-wing guy, I'm more to the left, you know. I'm the first one to say the government should be changed, you know.
Right.
We should have universal medicine and healthcare and, you know, pro-abortion rights and all that crap. You know, I'm for all that stuff, but that doesn't take away from my love of our country and what we've done, you know. It's probably not politically correct to have said that, but it's just how I feel.
Oh yeah.
They kind of get wound up about it, you know.
Right. It's so easy to.
Well, I think there's a difference, there's a distinction that should be made between patriotism
Tattoos and all.
there's a distinction that should be made between patriotism and nationalism.
Yeah.
And,
That's
you know,
true,
I mean,
that's a good point.
The patriotism means loving your country and wanting your country to do what's good and to be a good country. And I think nationalism is blindly assuming that anything your country does is good. And I
That's
think that
great.
if you
You should be
ask
interviewing him.
90% of the people who are walking around with American flags on their flight jackets and ask them, to tell you a single article in the Constitution, that most of them would have no idea. And that's what makes this country a country. I think that it's not bad to be patriotic, but I just think that most people who think they're patriotic are actually being nationalists. It's a different animal.
All right.
For president, Steve for president. But you have to run like that.
Yeah, right.
He gets a pudding.
You gotta put that hat on though.
Right on.
What do you think of the phrase "information at your fingertips" when you hear that phrase? Like, in reference to like the sort of like the information and media onslaught that's saturating us.
Media sucks.
You know what I mean? Like interactive television, 500 channels. It's sort of like do you think it's gonna? How do you think it might affect the way people interact with each other and communicate and?
Oh wow, this is one.
Is it something you have much thought?
Yeah, I don't really know about that one. I don't know what my answer would be.
I mean,
It's a tough response.
it is a tough question,
I'd have
actually,
to
but
think
I
about
think,
that
I mean, I was a communications major in school, and I think it's great, all this stuff that's going on now, because what it's ultimately going to do, I mean, hopefully, is going to make people more
In touch with being with basically
Yeah.
shrink. Do you think
it's going to
shrink
make,
the globe?
like the fact that you're doing this right now, I mean, 10 years ago, well, 15 years ago for sure, that wasn't the technology that you could do. This option wasn't there for you to do. You know what I mean? 10 years ago, wasn't as easy to make a fanzine. You couldn't go out and like rent a Mac at Kinko's and have, have a page maker, program and do it in 15 minutes or whatever. And there's a lot of ways that people now can get involved. And I have a lot of friends. I'm pretty computer illiterate. I know how to use Macs really well, but I don't know how to use all the other stuff. But there's a lot of people who I know who have like video networking and stuff and computer networking and friends all over the country through the computer.
Right.
We get a lot of Down by Law fans. Actually, Hunter corresponds with them on some.
Really, like through email and stuff?
Yeah, that's
oh,
it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about technology and advancement? Do you think it's gonna be bad?
I mean,
like our minds are just gonna turn to jello and
like there's some scary implications of virtual reality in it.
yeah.
Just in that, I mean, like if we can really sort of get into this computer-generated space and exist in that, then we might forget about like our real built environment and natural environment and such. I mean, it has.
I agree.
Yeah, well, everything has good and bad points to it.
That's true. Say that again.
Yeah, everything has good and bad points to it. And you just have to weigh, I guess, the consequences and figure out which one you would actually want to do if you would want to take part in that.
Right.
I mean, like people who watched a lot of Star Trek growing up, which I did, and there's kind of little nice morals in a lot of those episodes, and I forget which one it is, but one of them has a point. There's a colony which fears development and fears progress.
Oh yeah.
And they go down and they make them realize it's not the progress that's the problem. It's how you use it.
Right.
And it's kind of inevitable to have progress. You can't like withdraw into a shell.
Right.
And and just stay there and live your life. Like the Pennsylvania Dutch country, that wouldn't work for a whole huge world, because people would eventually someone eventually was going to discover how to make a gun,
Speaking of which, you talked about how it's not advancement that is the bad thing, it's what you do with it. How do you
do with that technology?
How do you approach gun control in the same way? Like there's a lot of talk about gun control now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that stuff?
Well, I've come around a lot on that. I used to be very much pro freedom of choice for guns, because I feel like I don't want the government to be the only one that has guns, I'd rather, like the LA riots was a good example. Order broke down and the police weren't there to protect you, and you would have felt a lot safer if you had a gun in your house. It was really terrifying.
There, right?
Yeah. But now I've just started to think it's so out of control. America has the highest murder rate of anywhere in the world, You know, I'm from DC, which is the highest homicide rate of anywhere in the world. Like 2 per day, I think, you know, or something like that. And it's just out of control. And I really think, I don't know what the answer is because I'm not a politician, just a singer, you know. But there's something to be said for making some kind of control or something to stop it as much as we can, you know. I don't know what it is. Maybe like new background checks or longer waiting periods or something. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think I could try and just put Smith and Wesson on it. I mean, stop making them to be a star.
Stop making them.
Just stop producing them.
But
I'm all
on a roll.
sure.
I want a gun so bad.
You don't know what I would do with it. But no, I mean, you should have guns.
what do you think, Sammy?
Well, I don't really think there's
Come from Florida.
From
see, where I come
shoot
from,
a German capital of the world.
every family has like 3 guns in Florida, you know. So I'm used to being around them and stuff, and I've never encountered any problems. But you know, I know there's problems going on and stuff, but I don't really know if there's a right answer. I think you'd have to have like a think tank to figure out a way to solve it, because you know, it's good to have freedom, but you know, if you have freedom to have guns, then you know, so do all like the gangster kids and all that stuff, you know, all the lunatics. But I couldn't really, I'm not like a genius, so I don't know if I can figure out a way to control it, because they're like trying to control it now, you know. But you can't keep some things away from some people. So
one idea might be either like what you're saying, to just stop making them, but and in addition to that, you know, because there's already so many guns out there, make it like, you know, if you kill someone with a gun, you go to jail for life. I mean, like no chance of appeal, no chance of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And have it become like one of the most serious crimes is to misuse a gun, and that could be another way that might.
Yeah, so they're definitely not toys. You know?
Yeah.
Just fuck around.
And parents won't leave them around for kids to find, and angry husbands or wives.
Exactly.
You know.
Let's see. What are your sort of, I guess, perspective, like your out of band occupations? Yeah.
Out of band experiences.
You know, like what do you do? Like,
We don't know.
is the band like a full-time thing, or like pretty
yeah.
much a full-time job?
Definitely for me.
But I mean,
what do you think you might do like much later in life? Open a donut shop, or like we've been just joking around, like we should open a donut shop and sell tainted donuts to cops or something.
man.
I mean, it's just a joke. We've been spoofing on it. I thought it'd be funny. But I mean, like, do you have any sort of
The only other thing that I
dreams
would
like that? Like,
really consider doing would probably be something to do with writing. You know, some kind of creative writing. Maybe I don't know, maybe even journalism or something, but even more creative if possible. You know, like
Children's books.
yeah, right.
Seriously?
Some kind of books. Yeah, that's about the only other thing I'm interested in besides music.
Are you still working on a novel or a book or something?
yeah, I mean, I wrote a book when I was in DYS, towards the end of DYS, and then I added a little to it after Diagnosty, but it wasn't something that I felt comfortable with putting out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a musician, you know,
Right.
and I think that's where my, whatever, if you get a gift, like from up there, then I think mine is that I can write good songs and hopefully, you know, meaningful lyrics, you know?
Right.
And I just felt like I didn't want to start becoming known as a writer, you know. I like to write, I enjoy it, and if I were to do anything else, it'd probably be the same as Sam, you know, probably write. But I mean, this is what I think everyone's put here for a reason, you know? And I think that, you know, maybe your reason you haven't even found yet, or maybe this is it, to become a writer and become an independent, you know, rock, you know, whatever, you know. And maybe some people never find the reason that they're put here, you know. But for me, I mean, I'm kind of, took me like, you know, 28 years to come to grips with the fact that I think this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And so probably in 20 years I'll still be making music.
Great.
Yeah.
Does anybody have family back home, and how does it feel like being separated from
Well, all I have is my parents and my friends, and I really missed him a lot because I never really left home before.
Really?
Yeah, I missed him a lot. I didn't really think I would, but I do. And but you know,
You send postcards from each city? Or?
well, I call actually just about every day.
Really?
Yeah, but this is
Nice boy.
this is an experience that I wouldn't want to miss out on either.
Right.
So and I'll always be able to see my family again, hopefully. so it evens out all right.
I guess I'm married. Her name is Caroline, and Caroline Smalley, and she's the woman who designed the cover of Blue, which is our second record, and she designed, helped co-design the cover of Dag Nasty 4 on the Floor. She's
Was she at your last show in Providence?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I remember.
She's my best friend. She's my soulmate. She's my other half. You know, I kind of like when I'm away from her, I die a little bit. You know, but I know that she knows why I'm doing this, and she knows what we're all about as a band, and she supports it. You know, which is why she's my best friend. You know,
That's great.
and so she supports it, and hopefully we'll get to the point where, you know, she can not have to work and just come with us on the road, you know, which would be really nice. Carl in All, the bass player from All, is married to a really terrific girl named Claire, and she goes with them, and she's their t-shirt merchandise.
Oh, okay.
You know, and she's like a great person. She's a great help to the band, and that's what I'd like to get to the point of us doing.
Yeah.
Is for Caroline to be able to do that and just work on the album designs and stuff like that.
Have you ever like walked through a mall with your family and like see like a lot of your albums on the racks?
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
Is it
actually,
embarrassing?
because my parents are real sort of, I love them to death, but they're real conservative, and they've gotten to know a lot about punk rock now. So you see my dad wearing a tie and a suit, and my mom wearing a really nice dress, going to Tower Records with their friends, saying, "Oh look, there's David's records." You know, and it's like, it takes me, it sends me out to some outer space, you know? It's just like this incongruous, you know, like, does not compute kind of picture, you know?
That's fun.
Like my parents looking at Down by Law Records in Tower, I'll never forget that image, you know? You know?
Can you explain the symbol? Yeah, down below.
Yeah. This is our symbol right here. And it was, if you look at it, if you look at it, it's kind of got a few different things going on in it. One of which is it says DBL on it, which you don't realize until you think about it, but there's a D, a B, and an L.
Oh, yeah.
So it says DBL. And the other thing is it's got sort of like a downward arrow, you know, which for me, all the great groups, well, some of the great, like The Who and The Jam, and a lot of groups had arrows in there, like even some of the early ska bands had like arrow designs in them, and I was always kind of intrigued by that. And this was discovered by this guy named Norman Moore, who's a really famous designer. He's done like Police covers and Heart and Queen, and you know, he's like a real big time. Has books about him. He's in LA, and he's a really great guy. And he, for some reason, he just liked Epitaph, and he did Bad Religion, No Control album cover.
Yep.
He did the first Down by Law album, which won him an award, which I was really psyched about.
Wow.
And he did Bad Religion Generator, and I think he did
What
the
that
first.
is?
He did the first
What is
Pennywise.
it on the cover of Generator?
It's this picture of hands with
Yeah,
feathers.
I had to
attached.
ask him. I asked him a couple weeks ago. I'm like, what the fuck is that? We sit around and we're like, what is that? Is that feathers? What is it? And he said it's hands.
Yeah, it's hands with feathers attached. Yeah, it's really weird. But he's like a really beautiful designer, and he you know, I don't know if he discovered this somewhere or if he came up with it, but you know, it just seemed to be everything we wanted it to be. And we wanted something that if you're in high school and you're bored, and your teacher's going on and on about like some biology thing, and you don't want to hear it, you know, you can just carve it into your desk, you know, with your pen,
So
you know,
very
your knife.
recognizable icon.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's about it. Yeah. Any closing comments?
I really don't have
Favorite
any.
Campbell's soup? No, like,
I don't know. I don't eat that much
Chunky
soup.
vegetable.
Favorite interview pose? What is it?
Oh
Is it
yeah.
one of these?
Skank position.
How about you, Steve? Any questions?
No,
Thanks a lot.
Over here.
Yeah, and thank you guys a lot.
Yeah,
for,
This
very much.
interview is
I've learned
sponsored
something.
by Jello.
No, shit. Just thank you guys a lot for doing this, and I guess we're the first interview that you've done.
Yeah.
Hope we weren't too bad.
No, it's fine.
And thanks a lot to everybody who's out there doing what you can to support this whole thing that we're building up, you know, like all of us are part of it, you know, everybody,
Yeah.
you know, and people who are watching this will understand that, you know, and just don't give up the faith and stick with it. If you ever have anything you want to write to us about, we always write back, you know. It might take us a little while, but we get there. So just keep the faith. That's it.
Supposed to be.
This is where I cut myself viciously and bleed to death on the bathroom floor.
Whoa. This is cool.
I heard a nick.
Straight razor. Cool.
Yeah, they are actually. They don't get clogged.
It's all fucking clogged up and nasty.
You gotta know what you're doing. You're doing that. Holy cow.
Oh, it only gets trickier
That
on the
deserves
back.
an Emmy.